Hi, welcome. It's episode 143 of Grow Yourself Up. And today I want to talk about how our own history and our own coping strategies and the ways in which we've made ourselves safe in the world have the potential to influence our children and sometimes restrict how they might want to behave. And I'm going to tell you an anecdote around how it's really important to do our own emotional work so we can separate out what is going on for us and what is going on for our children. And this works both ways. You know, we might restrict our children, or if for us there was profound safety in being like a record-breaking swimmer, we may push and push and push our children to be also a record-breaking swimmer. Or we might need them to break the records that we didn't break, or to push further in the career that we weren't quite able to do. So it can work in a multitude of ways. Today, what I'm going to tell you is about how some of what was going on for me threatened to kind of limit my girls' experience. So in the summer holidays, one of my daughters woke up and she said, "Oh, Mom, we want to have a jewelry store. We've made all these necklaces." So they had necklaces they had made with, like, I don't know, some sort of wooden bead set and then some other plastic beads as well. And they wanted to sit outside our house and sell these necklaces. So we live in a row of terraced houses in a kind of a group of houses. So it's a bunch of streets, but the houses were all built by one developer. So I suppose you could say it's like, you might describe it as an estate. But you know, anyone can go into it. But it's in southwest London, and we are in a terraced house, and you have like a little space in front of your house, like a driveway, and then just people can walk past, and they wanted to sit outside there and sell this jewelry. And my first reaction was, "Oh, that's wonderful! Like, what a wonderful suggestion! How entrepreneurial! I'm glad you're in touch with your agency. What a lovely idea!" I was really happy to notice, you know, the idea of a task going from start to finish of we make the jewelry, then we think about what we want to do with it, and we want to sell it. So kind of really being in touch with their own power and agency. And we have a street WhatsApp group, and I said, okay, I'll put it on the WhatsApp group so to let the neighbors know this is what's happening. And then they said this to me in the morning, and then throughout the day, I noticed I felt less and less enthusiastic about this idea because I was going to have to sit outside and also do this. And I noticed there's two specific things I want to talk about, which is shame and people pleasing. So some of my shame came up, and I thought, oh, I'm not sure if this is such a good idea, because what will our neighbors think? What will they think if we're sitting outside hawking jewelry that my children have made? Will that annoy them? Will they find us irritating or in any way sort of unappealing, or will there be a need to criticize us? And I said to the girls, oh, I wonder if it is a good idea. And they were like, no, mummy, we really want to do it. And I said to my husband, I can really feel in my own body a reluctance, like a growing reluctance to want to go and sit outside and to be with them, because I imagine that the people around, I wasn't thinking about our immediate neighbors. So I wasn't thinking that the people next door to me and another next door to me would think, oh, you're pains or you're irritating or anything. I just had this general projection onto the neighborhood, so all the streets around us, that they would think it's annoying or irritating or why are you doing this? And that's my own projection there, because they are not, no one has come over and said you can't do this. Even if they did think you're irritating, there's nothing that says I can't do this. And they're allowed to obviously have whatever thoughts they like about us, or, you know, whatever. They're allowed to have their own thoughts and their own actions. But because of my own shame and what I was projecting, I then wanted to go into people pleasing. Now, people pleasing is not actually about pleasing people. It is about trying to control perception so that we will be okay. People pleasing is closely tied to fawning. So fawning is one of our stress responses. And in fawning, what happens is that, and fawning is a very common thing that we have in childhood when we grow up in a chaotic environment, or when it's inconsistent and we don't quite know what's going on. So fawning is where someone does something or is sending us signals of danger, and we send back signs of safety. So we try and manage their behavior or what's going on to reduce, to like de-escalate the situation, essentially. So in my own childhood, when my dad was drinking, I would often try and de-escalate situations. So try and coerce him to drink less wine. I would sometimes pour wine down the drain. I would try and have discussions with him about, not drinking so much and eating his 5 fruit and vegetables a day, all that blah, blah, blah. Or if there was something that was more kind of aggressive going on or like more stressful, if there were people over and he was drunk, I would maybe try and placate him or sort of just de-escalate. So we get signs of danger into our system. So the signs of danger in that case would be a drunk parent being kind of chaotic and unparent-like. And then as a child, I would learn to try and de-escalate that situation and protect the family or protect myself. And in that case, that's more fawning than people-pleasing. But fawning, well, often in adult life, it kind of goes a bit more into people-pleasing. And fawning is actually, it's a useful skill. If we are in a dangerous situation on the street, say, and there's someone aggressive and it's like looking like they might punch us, if we can de-escalate that, that's a life skill. So I think that fawning is, maybe that's not actually fawning, but if someone does send us danger signals and we de-escalate, that's kind of a good, that's maybe, we could say that's conflict resolution, but it has its origin in fawning. And this people-pleasing and fawning are closely tied to hypervigilance because we're scanning constantly for how can we keep ourselves safe in this environment. So as soon as my daughters proposed this jewelry store, I was going into kind of some of my strategies. And the people-pleasing here is that I would not let the kids run the jewelry store because then my perception is I would be pleasing the neighbors or all the adults around us. Not that they would even know about the jewelry store, to be honest, because it's more about trying to control perception. So I would, by not letting them do the jewelry store, the people-pleasing element would be that we don't fit into the bucket of irritating neighbors. We're not sitting on our driveway doing this. We're not doing that. But again, that's all a projection in my imagination. So I talked to my husband about it, and I talked to my daughters, and they were extremely enthusiastic. And I really had to kind of connect with myself and parent myself and let them go forward with having this experience of going to sit outside with them and sell these jewelry things. So we made a time for later in the day. And they were very excited, very excited. And I got less and less excited because I was like thinking, oh, no one's going to come. It's going to be a nightmare. We're going to be sitting outside. Everyone's going to think we're like a pain in the neck. I was like really having all of these thoughts about what other people would be thinking about us. So totally in other people's business because they're probably not thinking about us at all. Anyway, the time came. So we sat outside. It was one of those boiling hot days in the summer in the UK this year. And we were sitting outside on the driveway. We had this little blue IKEA table and we all had those mini chairs from IKEA. And I had said to my husband, I'm definitely going to push through with this. I really want to support them. I had put a message on the chat, this like WhatsApp group chat with the neighbors, and I'd said, this is what's happening. And I just thought, okay, I can't control outcomes. I don't know what the universe has in store for us. And I'm not going to try and be controlling in an effort to like with this like fantasy idea of trying to please people when this is all my own kind of trauma responses. And we sat outside. I found it a little bit tricky, to be honest. I found it sort of a bit excruciating sitting on the driveway waiting for people to come past. And I didn't want to look at people. I noticed in myself, I wanted to keep my head down and I was making jewelry. So I needed to tend to myself in those moments by keeping my hands busy. So I was making more jewelry. My children, on the other hand, were boldly staring down anyone who walked past and trying to entice them into buying things. I think that they did a few like come and buy our jewelry, like singing out. And we had made a sign to put on the front of the table so people did know what was being, what we were trying to do. And I'm laughing because it was such a beautiful experience in the end, so I noticed this kind of shame response of keeping my head down and wanting to keep busy. But as I got more into the process and as we kind of started to embrace it, and the girls were clearly really enjoying it, I started to relax a bit. And there were some people, there's like a green patch in front of our house, and there were people sitting on the green patch, and the first customers were a couple who've got 3 children who I actually had never met, but my husband knew from the playground opposite us, or the park. And they came over and they bought a bracelet for the wife, actually. And I was so touched. Honestly, it was just so beautiful. I was like, thank you for being so generous and coming over. And I realized that the depth of my response came more from my own, like what I'd thought might happen. Because they came over and they paid £1 for this necklace, and then they were obviously sitting with a bunch of their friends on this green patch, and they came back again, and they bought one for one of their children, and then they came back again and they bought one for their other child. And there were some people, one woman who drove past, who I've literally never seen, who drove past in a convertible, and she stopped and she encouraged the girls and she asked them what they were doing. And they had this lovely chat, and she said she couldn't come now, but she might come back tomorrow. Some other people had walked past or had driven past our house and then gone back to their houses and then come back with their children. So another man who I'd literally never seen in my whole life before came back with his 2 young daughters and bought a bracelet. And then some other people drove past and stopped, and an older couple who obviously grandparents had walked back from the playground and said, they would come back, they would go and get some money at home because obviously no one has cash these days, and they would come back and buy something. And they did that. So they went to their house, they came all the way back with this like £1 or £2, and they bought something. And in the end, they raised £8, maybe £9 actually. So they sold all these necklaces, and with each sale, the elation between my daughters and me, frankly, just went up and up and up. And there was so much community that was created because all these people who I'd never seen who lived around us came and had a chat. I realized that some of the people my kids knew from the playground, because my husband takes them there quite a lot, and they knew them. So that was nice to sort of chat and put faces to names. And the generosity of the people around us, just in terms of showing up, whether or not they bought something, but the joy and the kindness and the generosity they expressed towards my daughters, and just sort of congratulating them for doing this, and just what was created was so beautiful. And the participation, so it was like this community spirit that came from this little endeavor on a Saturday afternoon in August. It wasn't a busy time because it was August and lots of people are away at that time. And I just was so profoundly struck about how our own fear and shame can keep us limited, because the girls just boldly went forward and said, we want to have this jewelry store. And so to some extent, they were manifesting something in a way. They didn't assume immediately negative things. They didn't assume, no one will come and buy stuff. Everyone will think you're irritating. Our jewelry won't be good enough. Which is all of the stuff that I immediately went into, which is shame-based. And then I went into trying to mitigate it with this kind of fantasy of people-pleasing. And it really, really, really has been such a big reminder to me around, we have to go forward with the things that we would like to do. We have to go forward with the steps that we want to take in our own life. We have to go forward and try and trust and just take the steps, instead of stopping ourselves at a point in our story or before we take action because of our shame, or because we don't think it's going to work out, or because of our fear. And when we've had childhood trauma, our amygdala is overactive. We have an overactive fear response often because things have been pretty crappy a lot of the time. And so we have to really actively kind of move past that, and we need examples of that. So I wanted to share this with you because I find it like such a beautiful, it's been a beacon for me in terms of me wanting to go forward and do things. So I'm just sending you lots and lots of love. And I'd love to hear if you have times where you have either sought to limit your children, or if you've pushed them in a way because of something of your own. So I'm sending you lots and lots of love, and go really gently with yourself.